Hello and welcome to another episode of Movie of the Week. And the movie this week, as you can see, is Kung Fu Panda 4. And of course, as you can also see below that, well, right now you're seeing my name. So I'm Daniel. Of course, you may know me. Kung Fu Panda 4 is just another reminder that Jack Black is indeed an American treasure. And so today we will be celebrating him and his performance. Of course, we'll talk about the movie, and then we will switch our focus on Oscars Sunday because, well, it's that time of the year. It's Oscars weekend, and the 96 Academy Awards are going to be happening very, very soon. And by the time you watch this, they might have already happened. So I guess you'll find out what our predictions, which of them came true, which of them were really off the mark. But before we get to the Oscars, we'll talk, of course, let's touch upon Kung Fu Panda 4, the fourth edition, as the number in the title implies, in the Kung Fu Panda franchise, which is a long-running DreamWorks franchise over at Universal. So to talk about that and so much more, of course, I've got with me today Bridget. How are you doing today?
Hey, Daniel. Doing great. Thank you.
Nice. Having a good week? Did you? How was Kung Fu Panda?
Oh my gosh. Quite the surprise, actually. It's number four
Hmm.
to this long franchise. And I don't know, I'm a little biased when I see these sequel movies. I'm like, is it going to really be any good?
Yeah, it's kind of like the fourth Shrek movie, right? Like what was it called? Shrek Forever After, because got the
Uh,
forever, the whole. It was like there was Shrek the third, and then or like some movies by the time you get to the fourth one,
yeah.
like Kung Fu Panda 4. Like I think Kung Fu Panda 3 it wasn't called Kung Fu Panda 3, it was called Kung Fu Panda something something something. But like here, like they're just
Yeah,
like
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
It's just four. Like it's
Like, just
because
so you know, this is
yeah,
the fourth one.
yeah. I mean, I
So
feel like this
what?
series only exists still because Jack Black is around to, like, make it happen. Like, if he
Oh,
wasn't
totally.
the lead of this franchise, we wouldn't be getting a
Yeah.
4th Kung Fu Panda, like,
Yes.
what, almost 20 years after the first one. I feel like this is one of those
Oh my
franchises where
gosh.
people look back and be like,
Right.
"When did the first I'm actually
I
literally
know,
gonna
I'm
look this
like,
up right now,
uh,
and I feel like the first Kung Fu Panda
2008.
came out,
Wow,
like, the same year as The Dark Knight. That's 16 years ago. That's insane. That is
wow. I
insane.
was like
So, yeah.
8, 9 years old. That's yeah.
Mhm.
But the first one when it came out, that was a good movie. That was a good movie.
It was
So,
I personally think the first one is still the best one, but, like, the fact that now they're on to the fourth one begs the question, what did you think about it? Like, what was your
yeah.
experience like?
I mean, I wasn't sure. I was like, can they still keep up in this day and age? And the answer is I think they did a really good job tailoring this. All the comedy I felt like was really on par with kind of the humor that we use today in 2024. It's really funny actually because when I went into the theater, next to me were two middle-aged guys, and throughout the whole movie, like all three of us were just chuckling. So it really is like a good movie that I think is good for all ages. Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised. In it, it kind of centers around Poe and this new character, Jen, voiced by Aquafina. And honestly, she just has a great voice to listen to as well. So it's kind of like, I don't know, some really great actors in this. Viola Davis, I think, yeah, was the chameleon. Um, and in it, it's kind of funny. It's got this bit, not to spoil it too much, but a bit with his two dads, and like the humor
Oh,
in
yeah,
that
yeah.
is just really, really funny, actually. The way that they kind of wrote the whole script, I was really impressed. Actually, I was like, it's a pretty solid movie, especially for a kids movie, But I don't know, maybe it was just the week I was having, but it was kind of a treat to go to the movies and just get to watch like an easygoing, feel good movie that you're just gonna feel good after watching, and I definitely did. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I really liked it. Yeah.
What
Um,
was what was your favorite part of the movie? I mean, of course, like, Kung Fu Panda is the spiritual animal of Jack Black. Like, that's literally, if Jack
it
Black had a spiritual
yeah.
animal, it would be Kung Fu Pandas. Like, at this
Yes.
he's very much, like, putting his real personality into the movie, and I think that's what makes
Yeah.
these movies fun, is, like, even the less memorable Kung Fu Panda movies are fun to watch because Jack Black is just having so much fun,
Yeah.
you can tell, and I know he's just voice acting, and then the animation has to be good too, and I think in the 3rd one, the animation style kinda changed up a little bit because it was, like, the whole craze about how the Spider-Verse movies looked, and, winning an Academy
Mhm.
Award and whatnot. They had that more paint, kind of a brush strokes, kind of a look to it.
Yeah,
So I
kinda
was
style.
curious. Yeah, like, whereas the first 2 had more of that Pixar 3D look to them. So I know
Mhm.
we are looking at a few of these images here, but they don't kinda give it away too much because you kinda have to see it in motion. And as somebody who
Yeah.
hasn't seen the movie yet, I'm wondering, like, what was the animation style like? Would you describe it more like that hand-drawn sort of a Into the Spider-Verse, that kind of a design or style and or animation,
Mm,
or is it closer to, like, the Toy Story, more your standard Pixar, Zootopia, those kind of movies?
yeah, more with I was kinda thinking of Zootopia, but when I was watching this. But I do have to say, like, you can tell thinking back to, like I mean, I don't know, of course, it's been over a decade since the first came out, so lots of technological advancements have occurred, but I really felt that watching this. I mean, there's the scene when they're in Juniper City and they're running away from the bulls, and that's also a really fun scene, but just watching it, I was like, "Wow, this, like it just looks so good." Like, the animation was done really well, a lot of the
Yeah,
movement. There's one part, I think, where I can't remember what I think, like, a kite, but just watching it was like, "Wow, I feel like I'm on a roller coaster right now." Just visually, it was really I was like, "Wow," like, I don't remember feeling quite this way watching the first one, but and especially I think too,
yeah.
seeing it in theaters helps a lot to really just kind of get the whole experience. But yeah, I felt like I was watching or like playing a video game or something. It was actually really, really enjoyable.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna mention also, like, if you look at that image right there, it's kind of the best of both worlds where you are getting that Zootopia.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the Awkwafina's character, you very much kinda can think back to the lead character in Zootopia, who I'm forgetting the name of in the moment, but you're getting that 3D animation style, like the more traditional Pixar look, but then you're also getting that, like that comic book
You're
art,
right
kind of
there in
a
the
hand-drawn
background.
art
It's
look.
like
So and I felt like,
it's a
I
nice
mean, honestly, in
blend.
my opinion, the 3rd movie kind of went too hard in that one direction with the and I think a lot of movies recently, even the newest Puss in Boots movie, because especially with those movies, like these DreamWorks franchises that have been around for a long time, and like the first 2 or 3 movies looked a very specific way, then you get to the newest one and all of a sudden it looks different.
It's like
It
you're
it
right.
feels like a
It does
different
throw
world,
you
like, how do you
off.
get the continuity? Right, exactly. It's kinda like
Mm.
it's the same thing as if you were making a trilogy. I guess that's one of the reasons why people hated or a lot of people hated the sequel trilogy in Star Wars, is because each of the movies looked and felt so different because there wasn't a lot of visual continuity, there wasn't a lot of like, it didn't feel tonally like they were connected. So I feel like in
Mhm.
animation, like, the animation style, the art style, you can
It
kinda
has to
say
be
the same thing
somewhat
about that.
consistent. Yeah,
Exactly,
but you're
yeah.
right. They can still, like the way that they did, kind of incorporate it to keep it fresh,
Mhm.
but they aren't completely changing the whole concept. I think
Right.
that's important. You're right, because even this, like, yeah, the visuals were just like, whoa, the chameleons transforming into all of these
Yeah.
previous villains, and yeah, so you can you can tell it's definitely like, well, the same Kung Fu Panda it used to be, but it's still very much along the same lines. So yeah,
I
doesn't go
love
too
Ian
far of a
McShane, he's
stretch.
back, like, that character. I don't
Yeah,
know if his character was in the last movie, but
can't remember.
it looks like you look at these pictures and it's a visual treat. That I do remember the 3rd
It
movie,
was.
there were like, you can pause a lot of these frames and they just look good. Like, it just,
Yeah,
and
actually, I
for a
think
movie
that's
that's meant
what
to
I was
be for kids,
thinking.
right?
I was like, it's such a weird thing to describe, but it's like, wow, it's just like so artistically beautiful. It really transports you to the world too. It's like, wow, I really feel like I'm in this city. I really feel like I'm where Poe is, and gosh, I just want to be like on this beautiful hill with the trees and the skyline. And it's just, yeah, it's just really, I think that's what too makes it a good movie to
Is he meant to
watch
be eating
because
those petals there? Sorry, I'm getting
I don't
distracted by the
remember.
picture.
It's okay. I can't
Are they
remember.
coming out of his
Maybe I think
mouth?
he like sucked in
Mm.
something, I think. But you're right. I feel like maybe it's like your neuroreceptors or whatever, but it's just like visually, it's like very pleasing to the brain,
Mhm.
I think, to watch.
Yeah, I mean, like, watching looking at these images alone, I'm like, "Wow, this looks great." And
Yeah.
yeah, what was the story like for you? Like, did it what was unique? Did it stand out from the previous Kung Fu Panda movies? Did it do anything different? Is it just would
Yeah.
you say this is just one of those movies where you go at it if you wanna make it a family movie night, you go and watch this movie, otherwise it's really not worth it. Like, because right now you can go watch Kung Fu Panda 4, you can go watch Dune Part 2, there's Drive Away Dolls, you've got, like, a quite a variety of movies out there, and of course, there's a lot of movie
Yeah.
theaters out there who are playing, like, some of your Oscar favorites, like, if you wanna catch up, there's, like you can do a marathon, or you can, like, go and watch some movies that are coming back to theaters for limited runs to because of the Oscar weekend. So, in terms of those other options versus Kung Fu Panda 4, like, how did you feel? Like, was this worth the watch? Would you recommend it to somebody who is going to the movie theater for the first time in, let's say, a few weeks, a couple of months, and they're like, "Well, what should I watch?" And, like, is it like, how would you say that this is a safe bet? Would you say this is worth your money? Like, how would you describe your experience in that sense?
I actually would. I was talking to my mom today, she knew I'd seen it, she asked, and I was like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, actually, I recommend you see it, especially in theaters." I know things will be streaming, but, I mean, there's just something about watching especially of all the films, this film, I think, should be watched in theaters because it just really helps to get the whole feeling across, I think. Whereas if you're watching it on a much smaller screen, because I was thinking, I was like, oh, I should watch Kung Fu Panda, the original, before watching this. But I was like, I mean, after watching it in theaters, it's like, oh, I don't really want to because you just have to see it that way. It's really the only way, the best way to see it. But I mean, the
Yeah.
great thing about this movie is clearly, and it's not just me, but seeing other people's reactions. This is a movie that is going to appeal to everybody, I think. Like, if I was going home with my family, my dad's a lot older. Like, we're all very different ages in my family. My sister, she's very young, still in her teens. But I feel like if we all went to see this, we would all have a really good time. I know my dad would
Yeah.
think it's funny. I know there were some jokes that my sister, there's just so many different levels in this
Mhm.
that I think appeal to
Yeah.
little kids, but also some jokes kind of that only someone older would understand. Like, okay, spoiler,
Yeah.
but at one point they're doing their little chase, and one of them they're being chased by bulls, but then they go into a china shop, a bull in a china shop. A little kid's not going to know that, but everyone else is, like, oh, we're
It's a
playing.
visual, yeah, metaphor, yeah, it's clever. Like, I love it when they
There's
do
something
that,
for
like, those
everybody.
clever. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's good.
it was a
I
very clever movie.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like it's similar to, like, the reason why people love Pixar movies is because it works for people of all ages. Like, you get different things out of
Exactly.
that experience. So, and then you can
Yeah.
kinda grow with the movies. Like, you may love a Pixar movie like a Toy Story, but then it would mean something different to you growing up versus when you watch it and when you're older, you still
Yeah.
get to
You
experience
can
it and,
appreciate new things. Yeah,
get
it's
more meaning
timeless,
out of it.
you're right.
Absolutely. So, I mean, and that's so speaking of what audiences are thinking about it, of course, the 87% audience score is pretty good. Now, there's only
Yeah,
about 500 or so verified ratings, which is still a decent number, but I'm sure that will go up and tick up over time. It's got a strong box office start so far, and I'll go into that in a little bit as well. The critic score is a little lower, 69%. That's still positive. Like, that means around 69% out of the 95 reviews are positive. Like, they generally lean positive. I don't know how positive. The one thing that I usually do is if you ever go to Rotten Tomatoes, like, click on that number and then see the breakdown because they show you like all critics, and then they'll give you the average score, like 6.1 out of 10. So just because it's
mhm,
fresh doesn't necessarily mean it's like, this 6.1 out of 10 means they kind of say it's like is good, but it's kind of average good, not like it's amazingly good. Whereas, like, the
mhm,
number of reviews, like, divided up by how many rotten and how many are fresh is a good way to kinda tell, okay, so this many out of the total said it was overall positive versus overall negative. And then if you really wanna dig in, I always look at the top critics because the top critics are the ones that are, like, the most respectable, the ones who've
Oh
been doing it for the
gosh.
longest time, the one that
Mhm.
people trust the most, which
Trust.
again doesn't yeah, it doesn't have to be somebody that you trust the most, but like you can always go, like if you like want to watch a Jeremy Johns like review or somebody like who's been doing it for years and years and is, somebody that millions of people go and watch the review before they go watch a movie. However, if you come here, like, you'll see, really a more curated set of critics, like 22 top critics gave it a 64%. Like overall, the score is a little lower, 5.9 out of 10 versus 6.1. And overall, the percentage is 64 versus 69, but more or less in the same range. What that generally means
Mhm.
is this movie is still pretty darn good. Like audiences, and the good thing is the audience score is high because what that does
Yeah,
is it helps make sure that the box office is going to perform well. Because initially, this movie was being targeted, they were predicting that it was going to hit around 50 million and maybe even go past it. And then we got closer and closer to the opening weekend, they were more confident about that. Now that number is significant because it's giving it a very good start. Drive Away Dolls recently came out, and it was a very small movie. I think it's Ethan Cohen and Trisha Cook, like husband and wife duo.
mhm,
Basically, were like the two lead creative voices, and with both of them writing the script, and then Trisha Cook is an editor by trade, so she was the editor, and Ethan Cohen, directed it. I think his first solo effort officially, where he's not working with his brother Joel, so the Cohen brothers. However, that movie they made for $20 million. It started off at 2.4, $2.8 million, something like that, and so it right out the gate just flopped on its face. I mean, unfortunately, I mean, as it's got Pedro Pascal and Matt Damon in it. It's got
mhm,
Geraldine Viswanathan and Margaret Qualley, I think. So some
mhm,
really talented actors and like a pretty wild and crazy story. However, it's also a rated
mhm,
R movie that's not for everybody. Whereas Kung Fu Panda
mhm.
4 is kind of like, of course, it's family animation. Dune Part 2 is the other big movie out there right now that everybody's going to see. That movie came out, I think it was, what is it, last week? Yeah, last week. And it's now in its second weekend. It started at 80 million, and now it's easily crossing into that over $100 million mark. Whereas Kung Fu Panda, for comparison, is starting at 55 and above. Like these numbers aren't
Mhm.
final. We usually get that on Monday. So like depending on when you're
Yeah,
watching this, you might know the final number, but 55 is a good number because that means that now this movie, which starts off at 55, next weekend it may drop to like 20s and 30s, and then that's enough for it to like be in the positive. That's a good sign because if it can make 55, whereas Dune Part 2 that people are already looking at as like this is the best movie of the year so far. It's one of the greatest sci-fi movies you'll ever see. So in terms of that financial reach, it's not that far off of what Dune did, Dune Part 2. So I look at that as a
mm,
good thing. And then the cinema score is, A minus, which is the same as the first movie. It's a little bit down from, like, the A's that the second and the third movie made, as the Deadline article talks about, but, it's all relative, like, because that's an average score. Like, I personally think the first movie is better than the third one and even maybe the second one, and so that's just my opinion. I mean, it's art, so, like, you may think that the first one or the second or you may have a different favorite movie, but the fact that it's still
right.
got an A minus is really good because that just means there's only 2 notches down from the very best score it could get, and
Mhm.
all around, I would like to think that, Kung Fu Panda 4, um, is gonna be a successful at the box office as well as with critics, and not to mention on social media because that's really where Jack Black has been doing all the organic marketing any
Yes.
movie can ever ask for. With Tenacious B, I'm like, this is so you tell me because you went and saw the movie, so at the in the credits, there's, like, a cover of Britney Spears,
Oh,
like,
yeah,
"One More
well,
Time." Is
yes.
that what it is?
Yeah. Yeah, it goes, so funny, "Hit me, baby, one more time" is playing,
Yep.
and there's just a
Mhm.
sequence. They bring back all the original characters from Kung Fu Panda 1, but just listening to it, like, once I was leaving the theater, I was just like, it's such a good song, and it fits, "One more
Mhm.
time," "One more movie," like, genius, obviously,
Yep.
Jack Black,
I mean, it's crazy, like, look at this, like, Tony Hawk wants a cover album, like, a whole cover album, and then to top it off, like, at the
oh,
premiere, they were like, "You know what? That last post did really well," so then they just did, like, a sequel to it,
Yeah,
basically, and then got the rest of the
love
cast
that.
involved. And this one went
I
viral
mean,
too, like, yeah, Courtney Cox saying, "I love this so much." I mean, that was just this made my week, just watching, because I haven't seen the movie yet, but I was like, "I'll watch this over and over again because
yeah,
this
I
is
mean,
just so much fun." So
when you see an actor so enthusiastic about the movie and their work, it's like, oh
mhm,
my gosh, like I wanna join this party. I wanna see what this is about. Like, very clever, and
mhm.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's so funny.
Let's just take a moment and appreciate, like, Jack Black as an
Yeah,
actor,
and
because
all that he is.
whether it's Jumanji, The School of Rock, Kung Fu Panda,
Yeah.
he's in the new Borderlands movie. I think he's just voicing an animated character, but, like, it's I think at this point, Jack Black has reached that status where, like, he can't do anything wrong. Like, I don't know,
No.
like, what like, what can he do
Or
that
if he does, he'll be forgiven instantly because you look
yeah,
in those
I'm like
eyes and you're just like, I mean, wow.
like, this is insane, like, it's just it's 16 years from the time the first movie came
Yeah.
out, and Kung Fu Panda
Well,
f
and I
it was like, never, like, the franchise, it's
yeah.
amazing,
And
yeah.
honestly, I think too, it's like we could all use a little more Jack Black in life, especially, life is stressful and stuff. And that's what I felt
Mhm,
watching this movie. I was like, this is just a great form of
yeah,
escape right now. And it's just going to
yeah.
be entertaining and he's going to make me laugh. And, it's just such a ball of joy in life. So, of course, whatever he makes is going to feel the same way. So, yeah.
My favorite comment is the Anthony Vincent comment where he's like, "This is like when Johnny Cash covered Hurt. It's your song now." And I'm like, "You know what? You're not wrong. That's pretty
Yeah.
accurate."
Yeah. Who did it best? Brittany or
Who did
Jack?
it best? Who thought in 2024 that's what we'd be talking about? Like, it's like not only Kung Fu Panda 4,
It was
but,
honestly, I was like, I actually didn't realize it was him singing it, if it is,
it
because it's
is
a good cover. It is a good
it
cover.
is.
I'll say that.
This is didn't it it's so this is like Jack Black. This is not the first time he's gone viral for doing, like, because remember last year, the Super Mario Bros? Like, he has a whole song in the
Oh,
movie that was, like, actually, I don't know if he performed at the Oscars, but it was definitely, like, nominated. I know, like, RRR won, but it was crazy, like, this is Jack Black, apparently, this is the second year in a row that he's gone viral with a musical act, and I feel like now this has become a part of his strategies with all his movies.
I
So,
love
I'm
it,
looking
like,
forward
it's
to it.
genius, like, I love it. It's you don't see a lot of like, he's not holding back, he's not being pretentious, he's like, "This is who I am," and it's just the enthusiasm makes you it's like the
Mhm.
law of attraction. It's very, very
Yep.
genius, and
Yep.
love it.
Yeah, I mean, Tenacious B doing the cover, Jack Black doing the perform like, that whole yeah, the original post alone, like, yeah, 3.5 million likes. I was like, this thing was just, like, all over my timeline, like, comicbook.com, "This is just a Jack Black appreciation account
Oh
now,"
my
and I'm like,
gosh.
"Like," and,
Oh,
like,
I
the next
love
account,
it.
like, it's the same thing, like, it's like, that's what I was doing all week, so, yeah,
Wow.
I mean, like, we're gonna get distracted here for way too long.
I know, right? Ugh, watch them all night
Let
long.
me let me just ask you this to kinda wrap up this review. Would you recommend somebody go watch this in a theater, or just wait till it comes out on streaming? Because, like, it'll probably be on Peacock soon enough. Um, but is because I know you mentioned earlier this is the kind of movie you wanna go watch in a theater, but, like, you've got Dune Part 2 out, probably one of the greatest cinematic experiences of all time. Would you wanna watch this movie in a theater when you have, like, something like that? Or is this the kind of movie you just kinda skip the theater and just wait till it comes out on, like, home release, you know?
I mean, if you have to watch like, if that's your only option, still watch it. But I just think it's so much better, obviously, like, if you can choose the better option, if you're able to watch one and then go into the next theater and watch the other, do that. But, I mean, it's just having it on a huge screen, you can really get all the detail, you can really feel like you're in the world. I mean, there's nothing like it, and I always forget that until I'm in the theater, but especially with this movie, I mean, it's it's beautiful and it's a beautiful escape. So treat yourself and go see it in the theater if you can.
Yeah, I muted myself there because I was gonna sneeze and then it didn't come out. But anyway, what I was saying that shot right there looks like you're playing a game on your Nintendo,
Uh,
like, like
Literally, I
it
was like,
looks
it's like it's
beautiful.
that's
So, yeah.
I was like, am I watching a movie? Am I playing a video game? Am I watching someone play a video game? Whatever it is, it was just like
Mhm.
it's yeah,
It
very
looks great.
great.
I mean, the movie looks great. It sounds great. Jack Black certainly has done his very
Yeah.
best to,
Mhm.
make the m just the fact that those posts went so viral will attract an audience for this movie, because people just now wanna go watch more Jack Black or listen to more Jack Black talking, and
Mhm.
that's what this movie is. Like, where can you get
Exactly.
your Jack Black hit for the year?
Yeah.
And, like, that's Kung Fu Panda, because you will get it in Borderlands, but Borderlands is like a, ensemble cast. That's not his movie. This is his movie.
Right.
This is his franchise. So, yeah, I mean, guys, let us know in the comments what you think about this. Is this, the kind of movie that you wanna go see in a theater? What did you think about Bridget's review? Is this a movie that's worth watching in a movie theater, or you're just gonna wait for it to come out on streaming? And then also, of course, if you like Bridget's review, then leave a comment down below. Let us know what you thought about the film. If you're excited to see it, just because now you want to see more of that, Jack Black goodness, then just let us know. Hit like and subscribe as always. That does help us out, as as the YouTube algorithm gods would say. So we are looking forward to talking about more movies as the year goes on. I know we're still pretty early into the year, but now that the Oscars are around the corner, and we're gonna start getting these bigger movies coming out. Godzilla versus Kong, or Godzilla times Kong, The New Kingdom is on the horizon, and then before you know it, it's the summer movie season. So keep checking back here for more movie reviews like this, and go check out Kung Fu Panda 4. Let us know what you think about it. But in the meantime, we're gonna switch gears and let's talk about the Oscars. I want to start out by saying this: the 96th Academy Awards are shaping up to be a very interesting episode, because this year we have had some pretty significant snubs, but we've also had some, surprisingly, good nominations. There's much like every year, going to be categories where you won't recognize anything on the ballot, but it's an opportunity. I look at that as an opportunity to go and explore, go to the Oscars website, go, on just to your local movie theater and see what these movies are, because a lot of movie theaters out there, especially like smaller mom and pop movie theaters, they will, do like a marathon. Like, you can go watch the Oscar shorts, or you can go watch a number of the movies. Like, the big studios will re-release movies that are nominated at the Oscars. And of course, a lot of these movies are streaming, like Barbie and Oppenheimer, so you can go watch it on a Max or on Peacock. So there's a lot to talk about here. We could be here literally all day talking about it, but in order to kind of keep the scope of this a little more limited, what I wanted to do is just pick like our three favorites and the overall awards, and then we'll talk about like our biggest snub prediction, or maybe somebody who we thought was the biggest snub in terms of just getting nominated. I know there's a few obvious ones, and we'll talk about that. Then we'll talk about some more underrated picks, as well as our personal favorites. And then we'll get into some hot takes as well, because like those are always the fun parts, right? So Bridget, like, Oscars are literally, when we're doing this right now, hours away. And when you're watching this, they might have already happened. So you may be looking at our predictions now and saying, well, let's see just how crazy our predictions were. So I wanted to ask you, like, before we get into the predictions, Bridget, like, what do you think about the Oscars this year? What did you think about the crop of movies that came out last year, which are on the ballot? And what are your expectations overall from this year's show?
Yeah, a little surprising to see what's been nominated, what's been left out. Um, I mean, I know some people have talked about a couple movies here or there that they feel like have been snubbed. Um, but overall, I know a lot of the talk has been about like Oppenheimer sweeping a lot of the categories. They did really well, like with the BAFTAs and things. So that's definitely the safest prediction, I think, is to assume that they're gonna win a lot. You know, it was the year of Barbenheimer. We had Barbie and Oppenheimer. So this is like, I think for a lot of people, this is like the battle where it really comes to show who's going to come out on top.
Who's gonna co well, I
Um,
mean, to be fair, it's a well, I guess to be f it's kind of an unfair comparison in the sense that
yeah,
Oppenheimer's got 13 nominations, and I think
right.
Barbie has got, like, maybe half as many.
Mm,
So,
yeah,
like Oppenheimer could win. I mean, it's gotta I mean, I guess it depends on
it will.
what its
Yeah,
batting average is
obviously
gonna look like, but if right,
right.
like,
Their
if you go off
chances are
of
a lot higher.
yes, exactly, like, last year, I think Dune had the most nominations at 10, or it's certainly one of the most nominations, and then I think it won, like, 6 awards, most of it in the technical
Mhm,
categories, and rightfully so, like, it was, probably the greatest technical masterpiece of the year. And
mhm.
much like that, I think Christopher Nolan movies have always been known for, like, their visual effects, their editing, their sound
Yeah.
design, and stuff like that. I know some people, like, will say sound design. I'm like, "You can't hear the dialogues in Christopher Nolan." I'm like, "But I'm talking about sound design, not like" I mean, that's part of it, but it's technically, I think it's considered its own category. And his scores are always nominated too, and he's been collaborating with some, people for years who got to take part in this project, like, Hoyt van Hoytema, who's I think this is his 4th Christopher Nolan movie that he has been a cinematographer
Mhm.
on, and then Ludwig Göransson, on the other hand, who's became famous with, Black Panther, and then, of course, is known for, like, his work in The Mandalorian as the composer. This is his first collaboration with Christopher Nolan in the world of cinema, whereas Nolan has been known to work with Hans Zimmer a lot. So, like, there's a lot going on, but, like, Barbie, on the other hand, it's Barbie was a unique cultural phenomena in the sense that
It
the
was.
mo I mean, Barbenheimer, like, the whole Barbenheimer thing was a unique cultural phenomenon. Like, let me just give you some before we get into the picks, since we're talking about the Barbenheimer, I pulled up some numbers earlier before when we were preparing for this. So, let's take a quick look at, these are according to thenumbers.com, which is a great website. You can go and look this up yourself. The weekend breakdown, so the chart that I've got up here, this basically describes which movie was the highest grossing movie for every week of the year. They do count December 30th in this because that was technically, like, mostly 2024, like, it just started at December 30th. That counts as the first week of 2020 or 2023.
Mhm.
Um, and so if you look at that list, obviously Avatar: The Way of Water, first 5 weeks of the year, nothing else is coming out, top movie of the week, up at the week box office. Ant-Man sort of, like, popped in, made a cameo, then you have a few, like, movies that did, like, only their opening weekend. Super Mario Bros. Movie was the 2nd highest grossing movie of the year, so it makes sense that it was on top for 4 weeks. Then like, have a bunch of, like, movies in the summer season that, like, they were there for 1 week, 1 week, 1 week, 'cause, like, it's not like they were only in release for 1 week, they were just the top movie at the box office for the 1 week, and you could tell that it says that in there, that was a new release that week. So it says that in there, whereas, Spider-Verse, for example, it was in its 4th week of release when it finally became the highest grossing movie, or, like, it was the highest grossing movie its opening weekend, then it dropped off for a couple of weeks, then it became the highest and, that movie ended up making, like, $600 million. Then you see Barbie. Barbie made, the top of the charts for 4 weeks in a row, kinda the same as Super Mario Bros. And then, of course, we get into The Nun, the horror movie season, Taylor Swift gets in the picture, Five Nights at Freddy's, The Hunger Games, and blah, 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 and the year ends. But notice this, it's not what's on here that is the curiosity, it's what's not on this list. Out of the 52 weeks in 2023, and none of those weeks did Oppenheimer, like, become the highest grossing movie in the world. None of those, or in the domestic, US and Canadian
Mhm.
market, North American market. None of those weeks did Oppenheimer become the highest grossing movie, that weekend. However, if you look at where Oppenheimer ended up in the highest grossing movies of the year, this is the worldwide chart. Oppenheimer was the 3rd highest grossing movie of the year. It made $960 million, basically $1 billion. I mean, it didn't make a billion, but it basically got there. It's kinda like Doctor Strange
Yeah.
in the Multiverse of Madness, which made, like, $970 million, and it was basically a billion-dollar movie. and you're sitting there with other movies that all are what you would call IP franchise films. Barbie is like a Mattel IP. Super Mario Bros. There's a built-in audience. It was the highest grossing movie of the year until Barbie took it over, like, in the eighth month of the year. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is the finale of a whole trilogy. It's part of the MCU, the biggest movie franchise of all time. Fast X, one of the biggest movie franchises of Fast and Furious. Spider-Man, it's a freaking Spider-Man movie. Then you have, like, then you get to number 7, and now you're starting to get into a couple of Chinese releases, and Wonka comes in at number 8. And The Little Mermaid, of course, also, and Wonka and Little Mermaid, both IP properties. So the only Hollywood movie in that top 10 that's, an original movie, not part of some IP or some pre-established franchise, not a spin-off, sequel, prequel, anything like that, is Oppenheimer. And it got there without being the number one movie at the box office throughout its entire run. And yet it somehow almost
Yeah.
made $1 billion. Like, that to me is freaking impressive. Like, I know that the
Yeah,
numbers are, like, you don't need to know the exact numbers, but just the fact that it was able to accomplish that is very impressive.
on
And
its own, yeah.
I mean, it goes to show you, like, like, how good of a filmmaker Christopher Nolan is, how much of an achievement Oppenheimer is as a movie, and I think it that those numbers alone, like, very much corroborate the validity of its 13 nominations, which again is the highest of the year for any movie at the Oscars, and it's been sweeping a lot of the major categories at the BAFTAs, at the DGA, the PGA, the SAG Awards, the Critics' Choice Awards, at the Golden Globes, like, all of the big ones. It's already been, winning them. So if you were to go by those as predictors, then Oppenheimer's gonna have a good night at the box office. Well, it already did, but it's gonna have a good night at the Oscars. Um,
Yeah.
so now that that we've sort of set the stage here, we've set the stage with Barbenheimer, because obviously that was the biggest, phenomenon in Hollywood and movies in general. I want to start off by asking you, Bridget, what are your 3 favorite picks from the Oscars in 2024, in the 96th Academy Awards? And I've got the whole list of nominees pulled up on the Oscars website. So I want you to tell me, like, of the roughly, I think it's like 20 odd categories that they have, what 3 categories and what 3, let's say, winners are your favorites to take home an Oscar, at the 96th Academy Award?
Yeah. So, best picture, um, I know this prediction isn't, like, gonna go great, because I think we all know who it's gonna be, but at the same time, I just have to root for the Barbie movie. Loved it, loved all the Barbie movies growing up, so that's who I wish would win. I know the underdog, and it was a great picture, um, and especially by the fact that, which we can talk about later, they are
There's a lot
only
of
really being
competition
nominated.
there. Like, that's a lot of competition.
I
Just
know,
just
I know, I
saying.
know,
Like, it's
but at the
you've
same
got
time,
Oppenheimer, obviously, Killers of the Flower Moon, like,
yes,
American
uh,
Fiction, Past Poor Things, like, there's just The Zone of
yeah,
Interest, like, another event under the
I
radar to the
know.
holdovers. So, yeah, I mean,
I
but it
mean
was the highest grossing movie of the year. It's been a long time since the
the
highest grossing
numbers
movie of the
don't
year won.
lie.
Well, but that's the thing though, right? Like, in recent years, there's been this
Yes,
trend where people say a lot, and it's true. It's not just that people are saying it. It is true that it seems like the taste of the general audiences
it's very
have
different.
diverged from what people consider to be, like, now this is something that there is, if you go back all the way to the first Oscar ceremony, they had 2 best pictures that they gave out. One which was, like, the best, like, studio picture, and these weren't the exact names, I don't believe, but they had a best, basically what amounted to a best studio picture, and then there was the best artistic achievement best picture, which was,
Mhm.
like, in layman's terms, basically the best, popular movie that was, like, that had, like, the budget
For
of a
the
big
general
studio and
public.
all the, yeah, like what you would refer, what Barbie would qualify as, what even Oppenheimer would qualify as. And then they had, like, what would basically you would amount to, like, best indie picture or, like, best artistic achievement, which I guess Oppenheimer also in this case qualifies as. Um, and then after the first year, they just sort of, like, got rid of that, and then since then they've been giving out one best picture award. Now, what's happened in recent years, as a lot as anybody who's watched and followed the Academy Awards, what you usually get is like most of the highest grossing movies of the year don't get a ton of Oscar consideration. And you would imagine because I mean, why? Like, like you would think that the most popular movies of the year that the audiences responded to the most by, you know, putting the most amount of money towards it. Why were they not? Why are they not considered the best movies of the year? And so, like, what's the, where is the thinking out of the general audience versus like literally like the actors voting for the acting categories, directors voting, who are part of the academy. It's like these awards are given out by your peers. So why is it that what the filmmakers think is a great movie is not exactly, if you go by the money, the same thing as what the audiences do? And it's a trend that, I feel like it has to do with just movie going tastes of audiences and what people like
Yeah.
to experience in a movie theater versus maybe watching at home. However, this year, that seems to be not the case. Like Barbie is nominated a lot. Oppenheimer, again, the third highest grossing movie of the year, has got the most nominations. So I feel like that trend is being bucked in a positive way. And
Mhm.
it makes, as a filmmaker and as a fan of movies, it makes me happy to see that, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, your pick for Barbie winning Best Picture, I think, has more merit this year, not only because it's a timeless classic movie. I saw this movie 4 times in a movie theater, and then I've seen it, like,
Mhm.
several times, at home on Max, and I think I bought it,
Yeah.
like, before it was on
I
Max, so, like,
did.
I have it
I
on
did. I
iTunes.
got
So,
I got it, I think, on the DVD. Still one of those.
yeah. Well, I've also got the soundtrack on, like, LP, so, like, I'm gonna need to frame that
See?
somewhere, and I
I know.
just got
It's
my
really
I Am Knuff hoodie in the mail, and I've also got the hat, and I've got the mug
See?
somewhere,
Like,
so I need to, like, if I was supposed to put all that on, but then I couldn't find that stuff because I'm gonna be advocating a
aw,
lot for Barbie in these picks,
okay.
but, like, maybe
Mhm.
when I sit to watch the Oscars tomorrow, I'll, like, just be, like, dressed up in my Barbie outfit,
Yeah.
so,
Biggest
yeah.
fan. Giving some support.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I even have,
Yeah.
like, a pink shirt, like, I can probably wear my pink, which I didn't wear to the
Yeah.
actual when I went to see it for the
Oh,
first time, and then I
sure.
was like, "Wait, everybody's
Yeah.
wearing something pink," and I was, like, the only guy in line who didn't have any pink on, so
So now you can make up for it. Here's your chance.
mhm. Okay, so then,
Yeah.
let's just kinda keep going here, like, what's one of your other, out
Oh,
of your 3 picks, what are one of your other best picks,
okay.
or, like, favorite picks of the year?
Um, well, I do think Best Actor would be Cillian Murphy in Oppenheimer. He did a great job in that, I can't deny it. Um, but I do think Best Supporting Actor, I was changing my mind a lot on the fence about this one, because we were talking about this before, but you've kind of convinced me. I've been thinking that I actually think Ryan Gosling should get Best Supporting Actor. At first, I was like, I don't know, is it really an Oscar-worthy performance? But I feel like the role did challenge him a bit beyond what he is normally
I
casted
mean,
as.
I'm just saying, I did this whole, like, you can, if you guys are watching this, like, please just search the channel. I did this whole rant, like, I think it was, like, late last year, on why Ryan Gosling deserves to win Best Supporting Actor. This is before the nominees came out, of course, but I was like, he's gonna get nominated, or he should get nominated, and he should win
Yeah,
because because when I think about what accounts for as a great performance that is deserving of at least a nomination, if not the award itself at the Oscars, it's a great, well-rounded performance. Like an actor who can do a little, some of everything that an actor can be asked of. Um, like he can sing and dance. You know,
yeah,
I just love that "I'm Just Ken" song. He has a lot of poignant moments. He's not just like the fun, character in this movie throughout the whole thing. You can see his character has this very, specific arc, like, from
art,
beginning to
yeah,
the end, to the point where like he's technically being nominated for supporting role, and I don't even know if Barbie had a true lead or true like a set of leads.
You're almost
But,
right, he did feel like
it's
a lead,
like,
actually.
Barbie was almost more of a movie like a Ken movie than it was a Barbie. I mean, they did a great job of balancing it out, but when
Yeah.
an argument could be made that, like, Ken was the main character of the film
Yeah,
because he goes through a
I
true
kind of agree.
transformation, you know? I mean, I guess ultimately where Barbie ends, with her journey, like, you know, she's at the OBGYN at the end of the movie, it's like, it's so this very much is Barbie's movie, but I'm just saying, like, Ryan Gosling felt like a lead in this movie at times, and I felt like his nominee, is more justified in supporting role than maybe Margot
Mhm.
Robbie not being nominated as Best Actress because he to pull a lot more weight. There was there's this one,
A lot
moment
of
in the
the,
movie, like, where he, like, kinda, like, he's just vulnerable, like, and talking about, like, how he feels when, like, Barbie doesn't address him and, like, how he feels like his only purpose in life is to, like, make, like, Barbie happy, like, it's one of those moments where you're like, you it's this as an actor, like, I mean, you are an actor, so you like, I'm sure when you watch the movie, I'm like, there's a lot more acting happening in that scene than in most other parts of that movie where you know, this movie is fun and timeless, but, like, all of a sudden they hit you with these some gut punch moments, and, like, it's
that
similar to the
moment.
moment, like, where, like, Margot Robbie's Barbie is sitting on the bench and she looks over to this, you know, lovely old lady, and then she looks around like she's experiencing
No.
human emotions, and, like, that moment still hits me every time, and then there's that moment at the end, you know, where you have that, you know, iconic Billie Eilish song, and there's a few moments like that with Ryan Gosling's Ken, which I think, you know, very much make his performance when you combine it with everything else that he does in the movie, very much an Oscar nominee worthy, not just a nominee. I mean, I think you should win, and I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you're right. It does take a lot of talent to not just be beautiful and a great, fantastic singer and
yeah.
dancer,
I
but
mean, it's kind of
his
unfair, right?
comedic
Like, it's like he can
his
sing, he
comedic
can dance,
timing was,
he looks that good. I'm like, it's just not fair. Like, you know,
uh,
like, what can other guys do? Like,
yeah.
so
I mean, his comedic timing was very skillful.
so
He
on
played it
point.
so well. But you're right. He did have those moments where and such a switch to be like funny, but also so you could see it, just the vulnerability in his eyes, and then her too. It's like, oh my gosh, I cried a lot during that movie. It was
Mhm.
that, which is why it should win because it's so beautiful. But I mean, what I
Yeah.
love so much about that is I feel like through the lenses of these toys that we played with as kids, it really kind of just putting it in our world really helps to show us our own humanity. It's like holding a mirror up to the lives that we live. And so it's like a fun watch, but it's also like, whoa, hard hitting. And they handled it so beautifully. Like, it's been a while, but now that I'm reflecting on it a lot, you're right. Like, Ryan Gosling all the way.
Yeah, I'm like, "Hey," it's like, you know, "I'll beat you off any day of the week," like, the whole like, that sequence or when he's, like, in the back of the car, I'm like,
Oh
there's
my
and
gosh.
I can't believe they haven't I mean, I'm sure they've sold millions of dollars of merchandise, like, I'm still trying to find this coat, like, I need to, like, figure out where to get that from because like, you know, there's or
I
like,
mean, I
that
just,
bomber jacket looks great, like, or that
I
just looks
th-
actually like a collared
yeah.
shirt, so,
I also,
uh,
the thing too is like the character that he plays is such an unusual, like, there's not many people
yeah,
like Ken in the world,
mhm.
and it's so much easier to play these rougher, tougher guys or just different. I
Yeah, I
feel
mean,
like what
that's
he
what he
brought to this character, it was so unique and it was so
yes,
different and so, like, yeah, and you're right, that's eh, he had to come up
mhm,
with that a lot on his own, and that's a huge challenge. It's a huge undertaking for an actor, but he really, like, developed something that he wasn't playing off a trope or a lot of what we see. It was, like, this brand new thing, which was, I think, so new for a lot of us, which made it so like, "Wow, Ken!" We love Ken, whoever this Ken is, but yeah, like, that's Oscar
yeah,
worthy to do that.
it's I mean, I agree with you. It just I mean, and the fact that this is so far removed from, like, a lot of his other work. Like, I mean, I know he's did La La Land, so, like, obviously he's a s he can sing, he can dance, we know that, but he's, like, very much
Yeah,
like I think there's this popular perception that Ryan Gosling loves to play these, like, beta male characters, right? Like, He's in The Gray Man, like, which was the one of the most forgettable movies I've ever seen. I mean, First Man, like, there's a lot of man and guy movies that he's in, like The Nice
And the guy,
Guys, and, like,
the
then all of a
guy, the
sudden he's like
man.
yeah, the man, like, he's and then, like, this year, he's going back to that, like, he's gonna be in The Fall Guy with Emily Blunt, which is I mean, but I think like at this point he's sort of like found his niche. He's sort of like reached his peak Ryan Reynolds vibe, where like Ryan Reynolds just plays himself in movies, and he's like, I'm perfectly fine doing that. Like, and like The Rock plays like, and Dwayne Johnson plays himself. He's been doing that his entire career. I think
Mhm.
Ryan Gosling is finally getting to the point where he's
Acting.
embracing his full self, and just he just happens to just be dressed up as these other characters. And
Yeah,
you're right, like his comedic timing. That's the biggest thing about Ken. I think that he nailed, and the fact that he was able to balance the comedic elements with all these other things, like with the action, with the emotion, and then,
right.
of course, the singing and dancing, like,
And
it's a
that's
well-rounded performance.
one of the things
Yeah.
about comedy when you're doing it is it's not to, like, play into being, "Look at me, I'm funny," but it's like he's so focused on his goal, and it's so real, and he's so, like that's what makes it funny is because
Mhm.
he's not trying to be, he just
Yeah,
is embodying that character,
yeah,
and he's so committed to being that person that that's what is so,
yeah,
like,
and
funny
it's
is the realness that he brings.
I just love the details, like, look at that, like, he's got the waistband there, it's like in the Calvin Klein
Yeah.
font, except it says Ken, like, when these, like, first promotional images came out, I was like, "This movie's gonna be fun." Or, like, the whole tassels thing, I want that,
Uh,
like, too, it's just so many, like,
uh,
Halloween costume ideas from this one movie,
I know
and
see,
then
when it
every
was
time there was
Halloween, so many of those I saw, I
no
was like,
yeah.
"Uh,
I mean, speaking of, favorites, I just wanted to, like I obviously, I have a lot of the same favorites, like, I think, Ken is also one of my favorites, and, um, I think, if I had to pick another favorite that you haven't already talked about, I would go to somebody who I basically, looked up to as a filmmaker for my entire career doing anything film related, and that's Christopher Nolan. Like, I think he's been the best director working in Hollywood for a long time now. He is our generation's Stanley Kubrick and Alfred Hitchcock, and I think he might even be better than those filmmakers, and that's a big statement. I get that.
yeah,
But, I think he's already made at least 2 or 3 Oscar Best Picture, Best Director worthy movies that have not gotten that recognition, like from The Dark Knight, which I still think is one of the greatest
mhm,
movies of all time, certainly the greatest superhero movie of all time, and Interstellar, which I think is a movie that is highly underappreciated, but it just tells this, very poignant story in such a large canvas, literally the universe. And then you have Dunkirk, which was an achievement in IMAX, unlike anything I've ever seen before. I've never had an IMAX experience like
mhm.
that. And then, his recent, like, I mean, Inception, all-time classic, probably one of the greatest sci-fi
Oh,
movies
yeah,
of all time. Modern classic, like, it basically changed movie trailers forever with the boom, like, the whole, like, sound effect, the droning
oh my
sound effect that
gosh,
is now in every
I
movie trailer
can't,
you've ever seen since. Like,
I know,
it's
kinda wish he
genre
didn't do that.
defining. Yeah, I mean, like, he's done genre defining Hollywood, like,
Mhm,
storytelling, mechanics defining work, and even though Tenet was, like, maybe, um, one of his not lowlights, but, like, it felt like a step back, even though I think that has to do with the fact that you need to watch that movie multiple times to truly understand how that works, because the way that he treats time is very scientifically accurate in that movie in terms of, like, how he ties it to, the concept of, what's the entropy. That's, the concept of entropy, the scientific concept of entropy, and, like, how things tend to go from order to disorder, and that's
mhm,
basically how he defines time, which is very much a scientifically accurate way of doing it, but it's not very intuitive in terms of how we perceive time. And so I think a movie that's very much sticking to that, like, versus the whole Back to the Future idea of time travel, or whatever the Avengers idea of time travel is, which seems to be some weird mishmash of all these other concepts, whether it's Terminator style or something else. Tenet is an underappreciated movie, but, like, nonetheless, like, all of a sudden he goes from what was a very ugly public divorce from Warner Brothers to Universal, and he makes, probably the achievement of his career, and it's been winning, like, there you go, he won at the SAG and whatever the BAFTAs, he's picking up trophies left and right, and he's finally getting his due. And
I
like I said,
know.
he's already done 2 or
Yeah.
3 movies that would should have gotten him a Best Picture and a Best
Yeah.
Director award, and now finally it looks like I think this is gonna be his year
He's getting
for
what
the
he
Oscars.
earned. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, he earned it. Like, I mean, I'm just like I grew up on those Dark Knight trilogy movies. I loved Inception and, Interstellar. Like, his
Yeah.
portfolio of films is singularly iconic, and I think it's
Yeah.
when it's all is said and done, Christopher Nolan will go down as probably one of, if not the best filmmakers of all time. I know, like, he's still got, like, Steven Spielberg up there. You've still got, plenty of, like, you've got still a lot of people, I will say, Stanley Kubrick and
Martin
Tarantino and
Scorsese.
Martin Scorsese, like, of course, maybe, I mentioned earlier, Alfred Hitchcock and, uh James Cameron, but to me, like Christopher Nolan is he's up there with the best of them. So I think he's gonna get his due this year and this is not breaking news. I think a lot of people expect it. And he's gonna get his best director. That's one of my favorite picks. Do you have any others that you wanted to highlight before we get into like the snubs and hot takes part of it?
Um, just one that I was going to mention. Or we can just go into those because it kind of overlaps.
Okay, well then so let's talk about it. So what I want to talk about what do you think is the biggest snub at the Oscars this year? Like
Mm,
any category, it could be any category, it could be a nominee that you think like they deserve to be nominated, or it could be that you predict that they deserve to win, but they will not win on Sunday.
Um, okay. Well, elephant in the room I'll go for is Greta Gerwig not being nominated at all for Best Director.
I 100% agree with you on that one. It doesn't make any sense. I think we were talking about this before we started up. Like the fact that you have, Ryan Gosling and then you also have
America Ferrera.
America Ferrera nominated in the Best Supporting categories. How can they
Mhm,
not and then Barbie Best Picture, how can they not
mhm.
nominate, you know, Greta Gerwig in Best
Yeah.
Director? It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, and I know we were talking about this a little bit too, like, what does it mean, like, when we have the Best Actor, Best Supporting Actress? Does that mean that the director should also get some credit? And I think it really depends on the film, but especially with this film, I don't think I mean, it had such a huge ensemble of supporting characters and just a lot going on visually that it couldn't have been made or done or put together without a really stellar director giving some good direction. Like her communication had to be key. She had to get this vision across. And
Yeah,
so I do think
yeah.
that it's kind of crazy she didn't get nominated at all because the Barbie movie couldn't have been done without her guidance.
Yeah, and it's also like you look at the nominees there, it's a competitive category. Like, how can you not nominate Martin Scorsese for what might be one of his best movies of all time, and in a resume that's filled
Mhm,
with all-time great movies? Of course, we already talked about Christopher Nolan as one of the greatest to ever do it. And then Poor Things was one of the most underrated movies of the year. You have The Zone of Interest, which Jonathan Glazer, another great achievement. Justine, you know, Triet with Anatomy of a Fall. It's hard to when you have only 5 options, it's hard to, like, knock off somebody from that list, but
I know.
I still especially when you think about, like, what Barbie as a movie could have been at some point and how it went through I'm not saying that's a reflection of the director because obviously you're judging them based on the work that they did do, not the fact that they got to do the work. But I still think, like, how timeless a movie Barbie is, again, this is my opinion, I guess, like, you might think that it's totally not timeless, that it will not age very well, but I
I
like to
mean,
think that it
I bought it
will.
on DVD,
So
and I haven't bought a DVD in a long time, so I feel like that says
no,
something.
yeah. So, I mean, I think that deserves a shout because and she's also one of the, best filmmakers working in Hollywood today, especially, one of the best female directors in Hollywood today. And the fact that she was able to take something like this A Barbie, there I mean, a lot of people know
Huge
there's plenty of
undertaking.
other. Yeah, Barbie is kinda like Super Mario Bros. It's one of the most recognizable characters, IPs out there. Certainly in a world where superhero movies dominate the IP space, Barbie is one of those things that it's not a superhero movie, it's not like a comic book anything, but it's almost just as iconic as any comic book movie character like a Spider-Man or a Batman.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of expectations, and you could have made a m and there was an Amy Schumer version of this movie at one point, an Anne Hathaway version of a movie. Like, at Sony, like, before the option expired, and then, like, Warner Brothers comes into the picture, and then, Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach come on, and like, there's a lot of moments in this movie that will, you can watch it back in 20, 30 years and be like, this movie connects just as much today as it did, like, when it first came out. And it's hard to I feel like when you look at a lot of these other movies that are in that category of best director, I mean, again, you're talking about
Are we
directors, and
really
best picture
gonna
is another thing.
yeah,
But, like, Poor Things, Zone of Interest, and Anatomy of Fall, there's a few movies there that just, like Oppenheimer and Killers of the Flower Moon, I think are 2 movies that are timeless in that sense. And
mhm.
part of it is because they're sort of recounting historic events, whereas Barbie is timeless in a more abstract sense, that I think the sensibilities of the
The
movie and what it has to
messaging
say
and
about the human
yeah,
condition, that is timeless. I know that, like, Poor
yeah.
Things and Anatomy of Fall and Zone of Interest are that too, but when you have a movie that's, like, comes in at that cross section of widespread audience appeal and critical darling, I mean, the director did their job, so, like, nominate them for the award. Like, I just
Right,
don't
give
understand
credit where
why.
credit is due.
Yeah.
It's
I think
really,
she
like
deserved more than an honorable mention, like, maybe she was at 6 or 7 on the
yeah,
list, and so she didn't get into the top 5, but I feel like she should have been higher. I just it's weird. I don't get it. Like, Ben Affleck didn't get nominated for Best Director for Argo, and yet every other major acting category and every like the screenplay and all those things, Best Picture, Argo won, and then for some reason Ben Affleck didn't get
he's totally
nominated
forgotten about. They're
for Best.
like, "Oh, yeah, that guy
Like, how can he
deserved
do
it."
all those other categories and then he doesn't make it in as a director? I'm like, without the
Yeah, I
director, the
mean,
movie wouldn't be what it is. Like, it's the director's, has such a big influence on what the movie becomes ultimately. And so I think, like, for producers to take home a Best Picture award and for a director to not get even nominated is that's a travesty in my opinion. I don't know. That's just what I think.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Yeah. So actually, speaking of snubs, can we just quickly like take a bit of a detour here? This is another movie that, and I saw this article come across my feed earlier today, and Entertainment Weekly put out this article about it's me, Margaret, just not getting like, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret is the full title. It's just didn't get any Oscar consideration whatsoever, and it's one of those movies that I think a lot of people looked at and said, "You know what? Classic book, amazing adaptation." Like Kelly Fremon Craig did a great job of writing this movie alongside the original author, who Judy Blume, like and then did a great job of directing the film. You've got some great actors in the film itself, and what do you think happened? Why do you think this movie just didn't even get nominated? Not to mention, I mean, it doesn't have any footprint of the Oscars this year.
I know. In fact, when you mentioned it, I was like, "Oh, yeah." Honestly, I think it's 'cause it's hard when I think movies come out earlier. I mean, I know we had Barbie and stuff over the summer, but those were just huge waves. Um, I just think it kinda got forgotten about, unfortunately, because when it came out, it was I mean, it was I saw the movie, I liked the movie. Um, Actually, I even think that Judy Blume, who wrote it, even said that she thinks the film was better than the book she wrote, so, I mean, that's huge, that's a huge nod to the success of the movie, but I think it just came out at the wrong time. Just thinking even about, like, Poor Things, that came out very recently, and that is always really helpful to get it into the Oscars, I think, when you release
Yeah.
it closer. Um,
I mean, I think
but
that's true because when
yeah.
you're not a big, like, studio picture, like a Dune or like a Barbie or an Oppenheimer,
Mhm.
you can get lost in the shuffle because this movie came out in April of last year, and I just don't think it
Yeah,
had quite the
before Barbie,
legs.
so yeah.
Like, there's
No.
a reason why a lot of these Oscar bait movies get released later in the year because then it stays in the news cycle, it stays in the
Mhm.
psyche of
People
the
are like,
minds of
"Oh,
the
that
people who
was
are voting
good. I
for it.
remember that." Yeah.
Right, like, by the
It's
time the Oscars happened, it would have been almost a year since that movie came out. It came out very much at the beginning of what's considered part of this the current cycle
yeah.
of nominees, so I think this movie probably suffered from, yeah, like, just being released at the wrong time. Maybe they didn't think it was gonna get Oscar consideration.
Yeah.
Maybe you could blame it on the distributors, the filmmakers, and who are, the people who were in charge of releasing it and when they released it, but, um, like, for example, I think, a great example, is Coda. Like, Apple knew they had something special on their hands, and so they
Mhm.
released it later in the year, and that movie, which was mostly just a streaming film, and I mean, it had just enough of a theatrical run to qualify, it won Best
Yeah.
Picture that year, and I was like, it definitely deserved it. It was a great movie, but if that movie had come out in April, even though, Apple was behind it by the time it was released, I don't know if it would have quite gotten that consideration, and I think that's an
Yeah.
exercise in, just distribution, like, how do you strategically place your movie at a certain time of the
Right.
year so that it does get
It's a huge
better?
factor.
Yeah. Like, what
Yeah.
so you being in, like, out in LA and such, like, what do you like, have you sort of had, any sense of, like, just the buzz around movies that are being considered and nominated? Like, do you feel like that's a r there's a real effect there of, like, if a movie came out almost a year ago and it wasn't a Dune, that it would get forgotten about, and, there's thousands of movies submitted for Oscars every year for every category.
Yeah. Actually, I do remember they had the premiere for Are You There? Are You There? Go Ahead, It's Me, Margaret. They had the premiere here in Westwood near UCLA at that theater because I saw it. So I remember seeing it, but that was kind of the only and posters that they had. That was really the only promotion I saw. But really, especially around Oscar time, they have the big billboards up, for your consideration. And yeah, I mean, this wasn't really a part of that at all. Um, so
Yeah.
it's difficult, but it is kind of like it's almost like politics, when running for
Oh,
campaigns.
yes.
It's the same
Absolutely.
thing. And
Very
it's a
true.
lot of like it's political in a way, and what are they going to put their time and their effort and their money towards? And if they, I'm sure that campaigning for something like this would be very expensive too. So if they feel like, you know, if they don't have Oscars on the brain, then they probably aren't going to. And they released in April, they probably aren't going to fight for it as hard.
Yeah. No,
So
I
yeah,
agree with you there. I think it's
but I can.
there's a reason why studios spend millions of dollars marketing these movies for the Oscars, for your consideration, the FYC campaigns. It's because ultimately they're marketing to the people who are on the Academy, like,
Mhm.
in the Academy and voting on these movies because it's like a popular vote. It's
Yeah.
your own peers are voting
Right,
for you.
it's like the
So
Senate, the House of Representatives here that
yeah,
they're trying to which is it's
yeah,
interesting because when I first moved to LA, I was like, "Whoa, all these there's so many billboards, and you wouldn't see it anywhere else in the world except LA because this is where they live," but
yeah,
it's so funny, it's like,
yeah.
they're not talking to
You
me,
do see
it's
them in, like,
definitely to
cities,
the
like New York City, you get but nothing like LA, like, it's just total saturation in LA, yeah.
yeah.
Um, so, if I were to ask you, like, is if do you have a hot take pick, which, this year, you know that if when you say that this is gonna win that award, that a lot of people are gonna come after you and be like, "How could you say that?" Like, do you have a hot take pick for this year?
Mm, I mean,
I know I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but, like
I'm trying to think, I did have a hot take, but then I changed it. Um, okay, it's not well, okay, hot take, if it is, um there was a movie that didn't I guess also kind of I don't know if it's snub or hot take. There was a movie that didn't even get put on here called Eileen, and it had Anne Hathaway in it. And hot take, I think she should have been considered also for Best Supporting Actress.
Wow, okay. So, like, what was that movie about for somebody who's listening and they're like, "What is this movie?" Like, I need to go find it. Like, what was that movie
Uh,
about?
it was about this woman and she meets, what's it called? Secretary, played by, Anne Hathaway's character, and then it's kind of like a little I don't wanna spoil it too much, but kind of like a mystery in who this woman is, and I just thought her performance was really good in it. Kind
Nice.
of a different side than what we normally see Anne Hathaway playing.
Yeah, she's yeah, no, I definitely, is it like it sounds to me like it's a bit of a like a stalker kind of a
Yeah, kinda
feel
like a
to it,
thriller. Yeah.
like a thriller. Yeah, definitely that's not you don't see a lot of that with Anne. I mean, she's yeah, that's definitely I
Yeah.
think you're right. Like, I wouldn't imagine that and Anne Hathaway is not like the good guy or the good in this movie. Like, she's playing the
Yeah.
antagonist essentially.
Wait, I think I got
So
it mixed up. It was no, it was a secretary, and she was played,
wait, this
she was
chick
played by
was in
Tom
this okay, hold on. So this actress, Thomasin McKenzie, wasn't she in
Thomasin
that,
McKenzie.
she was in that movie
She
a couple of years ago, um, like something was it a Gareth Edwards movie or I have to look. I'm remembering because she got some Oscar buzz for one of her other movies in recent years. Maybe 2 years she was in
Yes.
Jojo Rabbit, that was great. I mean, that did win, and Last Night in Soho is the one I'm thinking of. I mean, incredibly talented. That's the last movie that she did that I remember, and it got some Oscar consideration. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's a good pick. I think Eileen is definitely one of those movies that I think
It was a good
flew under the
movie.
radar.
Um, it was, so Eileen is played by Thomasin McKenzie, and then, the character Rebecca, that was Anne Hathaway.
Yeah. I mean, oh,
I just
like,
I liked
that's
the
the shot
movie,
I don't
but
wanna
also I just thought that I liked Anne Hathaway in that, and I saw some other people talk about it too, so I was like, "Well, it's yeah, it's a good hot take, I think, that they
that's a good hot take.
should have considered
Yeah.
her."
I mean, it's also like a snub in a manner of speaking, right? Like, 'cause it doesn't even get
Yeah,
nominated.
kinda same thing.
For me, my my hot take of the year would be the best song, the best original song, and I know
Ah,
'cause
okay.
look, they have, um, they have Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell, like, the iconic duo, like, they're gonna like they did for when they did the song, I think it was for No Time to Die, like, Billie Eilish did the opening credits song, and they performed it at the Oscars because it's like a tradition, like, every time a new James Bond movie comes out, the opening credits song is performed at the Oscars, and, like, Adele did it, like, of course, Billie Eilish did it. And this year, they had the song "What Was I Made For?" Yet that song does, would tend to bring a tear to your eyes. It's a very poignant song, and especially where it comes along in the movie. Um, and I would say that's probably gonna win. However, the one that I want to win, and I think the one that deserves to win is "I'm Just Ken." Like, that's the song that
Mhm.
should win Best Oscar. That's the song I need to see an "I'm Just Ken" performance at the Oscars. I hope they do it. It's still, like,
Yeah.
it lives rent free in my head to this day. Like, if there's parts of the Barbie movie that I just go like to watch by itself without watching the whole movie, "I'm Just Ken" is at the top of that list.
Wow.
So
Okay, when I saw the movie, that was the only part of the movie I actually didn't like.
oh my god, no
Sorry.
way.
I know.
Well, now
I
see, now
don't
that's
know
a
why,
hot
it's
take.
just like okay,
It's
there's my real hot take. It
I
shouldn't
mean,
win.
the beach off, like, are you kidding? Like, that whole scene was that they're fighting with,
Ah,
like, fake that have you seen the behind the scenes of how much fun it was, like, shooting this stuff?
I'm sure it
It's
was, I'm sure it
it's
was.
just the
I remember
ridiculousness
thinking
of it.
like I think I was like, "This what we could have not had this in the movie." I think maybe it was just getting tired too, and I don't
I get
know.
that
I
part,
just
I get it, yeah,
I
yeah, but
wasn't
I
for it
mean, I
personally.
had too much fun with that, like, it was just Um, anywho, okay. I mean, we're kinda coming full circle here. We started talking about
Yeah,
Barbie at the
yeah.
beginning, and we're back at it now. Let me ask you this now, to just kinda wrap this up, I wanted to kinda take a quick peek at some of the bigger categories, what are considered like the big 5, big 6 categories at the Oscars. So, Let's
Mhm.
start with, like, the actor in the leading role. You've got Bradley Cooper, Colman Domingo, Paul Giamatti, Cillian Murphy, and Jeffrey Wright. Great actors in their own rights. Of course, Oppenheimer, with Cillian Murphy or Killian Murphy, he has been sweeping a lot of the major awards, winning, I think deservingly so, his first Oscar, and in this case for the leading role of Robert J. Oppenheimer in Oppenheimer. Do you think,
Mhm.
like, he's gonna also win the Oscar, or do you feel like we're gonna get a big upset here and maybe, like, somebody like a Coleman Domingo or Paul Giamatti wins, or even Jeffrey Wright, I think American Fiction, underrated movie. Bradley Cooper, there was a whole social media controversy, but I feel like he also put one of his best performances of his career, a career that includes, classics, including, like, I still love watching Silver Linings Playbook because that movie's one of the modern, like, rom-com classics in a way.
Mhm.
Which I didn't even think a lot of people think of it as a rom-com, but I think that was a great movie. It won Best Picture Oscar. I forget if he won Best Actor or not, but um, yeah, it's a loaded category. What do you think?
It is tough. Um, I think, I mean, to be safe too, but I do think it is gonna be Killian Murphy. Although, thinking back to American Fiction, I do remember thinking, I mean, there were parts where I was like, "Wow, Jeffrey Wright's a good actor." Um, his line delivery was really just really good, in some parts. So honestly, I wouldn't be completely surprised if something happened and he got it. Um, but I don't know. I mean, there's always a possibility. So, kind
That's
of,
a
what do you
good
think?
shout for Jeffrey Wright. I mean, I personally think that Cillian Murphy will probably win.
Yeah,
It's
me
just
too.
I think it's a little too obvious in that case, and I doubt that he's considering how consistently he's swept a lot of the other award shows. But then moving on to actor and supporting role, I know we both already pitched Ryan Gosling to win,
I know.
but if I'm being honest, I think, especially going off of the precedents being set by other recent award shows like the BAFTAs and the Golden Globes, I
Mhm.
think this is Robert Downey Jr.'s year. This is RDJ's year. He gets his Oscar
Yeah,
finally,
he's
even
usually,
though
yeah,
this is one of the most stacked actor and supporting role categories I've ever seen. Ryan Gosling, Downey Jr. You've got Robert De Niro. You've got Sterling K. Brown, Mark Ruffalo. You've got like half the Avengers in here. Like it's like, and then Robert De Niro, one of the greatest actors of all time. It's like it's crazy.
I
Sterling K. Brown, one
know.
of the best actors of his generation. It's
That
super
actually
stacked.
reminds me. I was a little surprised at. I mean, I actually thought Leo DiCaprio did a good job in Killers of the Flower Moon as well. I liked his
Yeah,
performance a
that
lot.
I think that was a bit of a snub. But I mean, the fact
I
that they
guess you
have
can't
Robert
put
De
them all
Niro
in
in
here.
there, yeah.
Yeah, it was a
But it's also
yeah.
could have been that they submitted him as best actor and not supporting, and then that's a whole different conversation, you know?
Mm,
So it could have been
yeah.
that. It just depends on how you because studio it's up to the studio to submit it for these certain categories. So they might have submitted him for best actor. So who do you think wins this category? Who's gonna take home the actor in a supporting role?
Ryan Gosling, obviously.
All right, well, cool. I mean, I'll admit, like, that's the I would have the
I've
biggest
I
smile on
know,
my face if that does
I
happen.
know.
I just
From
think,
what I've
like,
heard, yeah,
yeah,
I don't know, I feel like there's hope.
RDJ
From
is
what
gonna
I've
get
heard
it.
from other people, a lot of people, I know, but a lot of people are
Yeah.
like, "But what about Ryan Gosling?" Like, I think people,
Just go
yeah,
watch my rant. I think I made some good points, or just rewind back this video. I think we
I
both made
know.
some really good points in favor
We
of
should
Ryan
have gotten
Gosling.
a billboard this year to direct
For your
people to watch.
consideration.
We should have said, "For your consideration, watch Daniel's rant,
This is
please."
yes, please. Yeah, I mean, it's not paid for by Warner Brothers. I'm not shilling for them. But anyway, actress in a leading role. One of the most prestigious awards at the ceremony every year. Emma Stone for Poor Things, Carey Mulligan for Maestro, Sandra Huller for Anatomy of a Fall, Lily Gladstone for Killers of the Flower Moon. I think she was a real revelation in that movie this year. Like, probably one of the best performances of
It
the
was
year,
a
period.
big
And then Annette
breakout for
Bening
her.
for Nayad. Like, which one of these movies, what do you think about this category?
Personally, I actually would choose Sandra Huller, um,
Okay.
which is, I guess, more an underrated pick. I just think her acting, was really good in that movie. And I love Lily Gladstone in Killers of the Flower Moon. but, I saw her in another movie where I think she can do even more. So I just don't think it
Okay.
showcased her best work. But I know it's really between her and Emma Stone is the talk,
Yeah.
but I think it will be Lily Gladstone. It's
Yeah. I think personally she's got it in the bag. I think this is her award. If there's one award that Killers of the Flower Moon is gonna walk away with at the Oscars this
it's
year,
yeah,
it's Lily
probably this
Gladstone
one.
winning. This is the one where
Yeah.
that's the one there where they're the
It was her
surest bet.
yeah, her
So,
movie.
yeah, and you know what? If that's not her best performance, then I would love to see what her best performance looks like. So, she can only go up from here,
Yeah,
or keep going up from here. Like, like
yeah,
Michelle Yeoh won Best Actress last year, and it's her career has gone through one hell of a revival. Like, I mean, she
yeah,
was already on her way to well into a career revival, but the Oscar I think completely launched her into the stratosphere all over again. So I think that could be the same for Lily Gladstone. Now, moving on to actress in a supporting role, Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer, Daniel Brooks in The Color Purple. You've got America Ferrera from Barbie, Jodie Foster in Nayad, and then Davine Joy Randolph in The Holdovers. Another fantastic category. I mean, Emily Blunt's performance in Oppenheimer is one of the strongest performances by an actress in any movie that I've seen in a long time. Like I was floored by just like how powerful that was, and like the character. It's just she just completely became the character itself, and just I could not she was one of those in a movie full of great performances and actors. Her performance stood out to me. And, like RDJ's performance, like Robert
yeah,
Downey Jr.'s performance stood out to me. And then that's why I think he's gonna win that award. Do you think Emily
yeah.
Blunt is gonna rep Oppenheimer and then take home the best actress in a supporting role, or do you think there's another performance here that might be the winner?
I think so, but hmm, I also think it's hard. The Color Purple hasn't been nominated for anything else, I think, but
This is
this.
the
This is their
Which
only
is surprising
nomination.
to me that this movie's only got one nominee in the whole show.
I know,
Uh, it's
and
it's really surprising to me.
me too. But I think she did great performance as well. So I like honestly, I do think because I was even thinking, I was like, okay, what about America Ferrera and Barbie? Um, and I loved her in that. I love that role for
Mhm.
her. She was great. I loved that message she had. But again, like I also saw her in Dumb Money, and I thought she did a good performance. Actually, I think she did an even better performance there. I liked her performance in that. So I just don't think it was Oscar worthy. But
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. Yeah.
that's just my thoughts. I kind of feel like she should be in herself a little bit. So I would I you're right. The way I did like Emily Blunt in Oppenheimer a lot. I mean, I just love Emily Blunt. She's a fantastic actress. But
Yeah.
I also would love for there to be a little more attention on Daniel Brooks as a possibility, because she also had a really vulnerable performance in that movie,
Yeah.
that should be considered.
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people will probably remember Daniel Brooks from Peacemaker. I don't know if she's gonna be. I think she's gonna be back in season two. That's we now know is gonna be going to production later this year. So yeah, but I think this is one of those categories where I agree with you that I think Emily Blunt should win, but this is one of those categories where she could get upset and Daniel Brooks could take it home. Like I would not be
Yeah,
surprised. In fact, if I were picking, this is the one category where I would like pick for an upset because I think Emily Blunt
because
is just vulnerable
yeah,
enough that, and
where
the
it's
performance
like
of Daniel
and
Brooks
we
was
know
just
that
strong enough that
yeah,
yeah.
because and it's their only nomination, so it's like, this is really the only one where they can get a shot at
Yeah.
this,
Which that
so
doesn't necessarily mean that means that she, like, it has to
right,
win, but, like,
but it's just
you're
like
right. It's the quality of her performance in that role. Even though, like, look, again, Emily Blunt's like, in the second half of Oppenheimer, where, like, with all those the sham court trial, like, to discredit Oppenheimer, and, like, she's
mhm,
basically she's playing the wife of Oppenheimer there, and it's, just very strong character, and she completely just blends
yeah,
into the role. And so, yeah, I
yeah,
think probably one of her best performances of her career, but at the same time, Daniel Brooks put in one hell of a performance in The Color Purple, which
Mhm, so
as a
fun.
movie, very underrated, I think, considering, how
Yeah,
good of a film it was, and
yeah.
Daniel Brooks can rep that movie. It would be the only, Oscar it would have the chance at winning, and I would be willing to bet that that might be one of those upsets that we'll be surprised by. In a category where you have, like, Jodie Foster, America Ferrera, Davina Joy Randolph, like
I know.
some of the other
Big
greatest
names, I
actresses
know.
of the day. So, yeah, now those are the 4 major acting categories. So, like, what I would like to do here is, I mean, I think that personally, Oppenheimer is gonna win a lot of the technical awards. So, like, it's gonna win,
Mhm.
for cinematography. It's probably also
Yeah,
gonna get, like,
definitely.
Ludwig Göransson another Oscar for, music composition for Oppenheimer. But directing is something that I mentioned earlier as one of my favorites. So that I've already sort of put my chips in, all in on Christopher Nolan for Oppenheimer, and deservedly so in my opinion. Absolutely, the man deserves it. This is might be his best movie of his career, and a career that's already got like some of the best movies of the past
Yeah.
25, 50 years. But then he's at competition. He's got Martin Scorsese, a director who's got a portfolio even more extensive than Christopher Nolan, and
Mhm,
he's probably got like 3, 4, if not 5 of the greatest movies of all time already on their resume, and somehow Killers of the Flower Moon was being called his greatest achievement of his
mhm,
extremely long and prestigious career by most critics that reviewed the film. And then you've got Justine Triet with Anatomy of a Fall, one of the most unique movies of the year. Poor Things, with Yorgos Lanthimos. I hope I got that one name right. The Zone of Interest, Jonathan Glazer. I think that's a movie that, some people are like, it didn't deserve to be in there, but then it's one of those movies that the average audience, member probably didn't go to see in a movie theater. But
mhm.
Oppenheimer, I mean, that's my pick. What do you think? Like, do you think that this is a category where we get an upset and somehow Christopher Nolan gets screwed again, or is he taking the trophy this time? Is he taking the Oscar?
I think he's gonna take the Oscar. I mean, he's been collecting all of them so far, so I would be very surprised if he didn't get it. And then, even hearing your spiel, it's like, yeah, he should get it. He
Yeah, I
deserves
think I
it.
made a
He
pretty good
really
case for
deserves it.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, no, hey, look,
I mean,
I agree with you. So
I I remember seeing on the ads too for Killers of the Flower Moon, like, this is Martin Scorsese's best, but I really feel like Oppenheimer just hit all the marks, and
it's yeah, and I think any other year with where if it wasn't up against Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon might have taken, getting
might
Martin
have.
Scorsese's second best directing Oscar.
Yeah.
'Cause I believe he won for The Departed, but I might be wrong about that, but, like, I do believe he's already won. I mean, he did The Irishman, and that was a year where the competition was very strong. But
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, but I would say those are my 2 favorites, and those are probably most people's 2
Yeah.
favorites. They're also the 2 of the highest
Mhm.
profile movies in that category. But
Mhm.
like you said, if you go by all the other awards where, Nolan's been racking them up, I think he's gonna get this one
Mhm.
too, and deservedly so. So, with that
Mhm.
said, let's kind of, move down here. Let's get to the main event, the last award of the night that is every year, the Best Picture category. So, in Best Picture this year, usually nowadays they have, I think it was going back to the late 2000s, they expanded the category so it can have more than 5 options. And in this year, I believe they're gone pretty much as close to that number as possible. I think if I count them here, there's 5 plus yeah, there's 10. They maxed it out, so they've got 10 nominees. Now, a lot of these are the usual suspects, like, not the movie Usual Suspects, but you've got The Zone of Interest, Poor Things, The Holdovers, Anatomy of a Fall, American Fiction, Maestro, Past Lives, and of course, you've got Oppenheimer, Killers of the Flower Moon, Barbie. You've got these movies that have a lot of nominations in other categories as well. So I'll, put it to you, like, what do you think is is the movie that's gonna take home that biggest award of the night, the Best Picture award?
Barbie, Barbie, Barbie all the way. I'm a
That's
Barbie
a
girl in my Barbie world.
I mean,
If
I
they
don't think you
win,
can go wrong with that. I don't think you can go
I mean,
wrong with that pick. But,
the production design and the music and just I mean, we need to be saying more. I mean, we've talked about all of our favorite parts. It's like, ugh, it like, no, I have no more words to say. I'm
it
just like,
slaps,
"Come
like,
on. You're not seeing
it's
what
just a
I'm
great
seeing?"
movie. Yeah. It's timeless. I
I
really
mean,
think it's the kind of
it
filmmaking
is.
that we don't see. It's like it's meta, it's classic, it's timeless, it's very
And
different. It's kinda like we were talking about Kung Fu Panda 4 earlier, and I don't wanna, like, put the 2 in necessarily the same sentence to imply that they're equals in any way,
American
like,
Treasures?
it's I guess that's in one way that I would say, yes, they both are American treasures, but they both,
Yeah,
like, in the sense that, Jack Black is a timeless at this point, like, he can't do anything wrong. I personally think that, there's nothing in Barbie where, like, they took a wrong turn. It's rare to see a
yeah,
movie, in my opinion, that's just from
totally.
top to bottom, like, so well put together and almost, like, about as from the editing to the pacing to, like, all the song and dance
And
numbers to the acting to
yeah.
all the meta jokes, and there was a Zack Snyder fan diss in there, which I was I was rolling on the floor laughing even though I consider myself a fan of those Zack Snyder DC movies. I was like, "You know what? I'll give you that. That was pretty darn good." So, like, the Snyder cut, like, I felt
Yeah.
like I was watching the Snyder cut for the last 8 hours. I'm like, "Okay, alright, you know what? Yes, that was
You felt
funny,
seen, you felt heard. That's good.
but
I mean,
yes." I was like, "Yes."
I think too with this movie, like,
Yeah.
before it even came out and I saw the trailers, honestly, I was like, "This movie" I actually wasn't that impressed. I was like, "It's not gonna be that good." And thinking about it, I mean,
Are
before
you
this
sure
movie even
though?
came out
Did you when you saw that trailer with the whole 2001: A Space Odyssey, what would you call it? Like a tribute to that. It's literally the
uh,
opening sequence of 2001: A Space Odyssey, except instead of Monolith is
uh
Barbie. I thought it
I
was
know, but I was
absolute pure
like, them
genius.
smashing the baby dolls, I don't know, I was like, "Oh, that's so on the nose." Like, what is this really good? I had no idea what
But
it
that
was
was the
really gonna
point of the
be.
whole thing. I mean, like, I don't know. Like, but I get where you're coming
I
from. It was probably not what you expected necessarily. I don't think anybody
no,
expected that. So,
yeah, I thought
yeah.
see, and that's the thing, I feel like Barbie itself, like, before the movie and everything, it's pretty controversial, I think. A lot of people have different views on, like, the
Yeah.
Barbie dolls and, like, w
And they addressed
how that
that in the
relates
movie too, which I thought, like, was a good way to
exactly.
kinda the way they
And
tackled
the
it.
way that they exactly, they didn't ignore it, they didn't push it under the rug, they, like, full on
They took it head on.
incorporated it,
Yeah.
but in a way, like, it's even, like, crazy to think about how they did it. I don't know, I feel like even people's ideas, like, politically, but I feel like this movie was, like, right it
They had a
wasn't, like,
Matrix
too
reference in there. I'm like, "Come on."
I felt like it wasn't too far leaning one
Yeah.
way or too far the other. I feel like it appealed to everybody, which is really, really hard to do, especially in our political climate in America today.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think it was it was done in a way um,
I mean, it
that,
appealed to as wide an audience as possible, meanwhile just,
yeah, which is,
accomplishing so much more than the average. I think, like,
yeah,
they make those, like, animated Barbie movies, like, which dime a dozen, and none of them really
doesn't,
do anything to, like, kinda, like, comment on the human
those little
condition in a
kids.
way that this Barbie movie did, which
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
think in that way,
like,
yes, it's absolutely deserving of the best picture at the Oscar if it does,
yeah,
indeed win. So,
yeah.
as far as my pick, I mean, I'm just gonna, look, I love Barbie, but, like, I think, like,
Be
not
a
it
little
is not
realistic.
maybe my pick, but I'm just being exactly, I think that's the best way to put it.
Mhm.
I'm just being realistic.
You're
Oppenheimer,
looking
I think
at
is
the past history and the predict yeah. You've
like,
seen
the
all the data.
BAFTAs, like, these Golden Globes, the SAG Awards, the DGA, the
You see it
PGA.
coming. I get it.
I mean, it's just it's one of those things where it's and to be quite frank, like, that movie is super long, but, like, the ending of that movie hits you in such a like, it literally, like, blew I was like, "Oh, shit," like, he did it again. Like, that was my reaction, like, the way that movie ends, I'm like, "Christopher Nolan did it again, and somehow he outdid it himself in the process." Like, the way that moved with that shot of, like, the whole you might set the world on fire, and then, yeah, at the end, they connected back to that comment, but in, like,
Yeah.
in a figurative way, and I'm just like, "Okay, yep, you blew my mind again." Somehow, Christopher Nolan just knows story mechanics so well, and in that sense, that's what I admire about him as a filmmaker the most is his understanding of story mechanics and how to take
Mm.
the audience on a journey and then bring them full circle and then both give them an experience, but at the same time blow their minds somehow each and every time with his movies, even ones where it could be about something as simple as Dunkirk, where you know all it was is all these British soldiers stuck across the English Channel waiting to come back across to England, and he turned that into something that was incredibly entertaining. And then here,
Yeah.
the scale of this movie, the subject matter and the importance of that, and then even though this movie takes place at this point almost a century ago, the events of the film, it's as relevant as ever today in the world that we live in.
Mhm.
And so his ability to sort of like tie it back into the events of the here and the now, and then at the same time make it feel so timeless because
Mhm.
just the events it covers and the way in which it covers it, and then his typical, not his typical, I should say his signature non-chronological style of storytelling. And like a lot of
Yeah.
filmmakers try to do and try to adapt that and try to emulate that, but most of them don't do it like with the elegance and with the nuance that he's able to do it. Like like, I can tell you, like, I watched this movie twice in movie theaters, and both times, once in IMAX and once not in IMAX. The first time I watched it in IMAX because that's the best way to watch this movie and every Christopher Nolan movie. There was a collective gasp at the movies in the movie theater the moment you find out, like, that RDJ's character is, like, the evil, conniving
Uh-huh.
punk. Like, it's like, you like, "Oh, shit." There's that "Oh, shit" moment, and I'm
There's
like,
that. Yeah.
and it's so good, and then it's like one of those yeah, it's one of those moments, like, that's why people go watch like, love to go, watch movies like
Right.
Avengers: Endgame in a movie theater because it's a collective experience, and a lot of movies don't have that, but, like, the movies that, like, that are considered those classic biggest movies of all time have that in space because it's a you experience that as an audience together. And this movie has like 2 or 3 moments like that. They have like when they do the first test of the atomic bomb, that's one of those moments. That Robert Downey Jr.'s character, like his character just like you finally
The
figure out like
reveal.
big reveal, that's one of those moments. And this movie
Yeah.
has at least 2 or 3 other moments like that where for a film where there's not a single, I mean, I think there is a punch thrown at one point, but there's no fight sequence. There's no, like, action car chase sequence.
Yeah.
Even the explosions in this movie don't quite look like your traditional Hollywood explosions. It's really just mostly a character drama. And for a movie like that
Yeah.
to hit in the way that it does, I'm like, Christopher
It's
Nolan
it's a
has the ability
feat.
to turn any subject matter and into
Yeah.
a movie that just edge of your seat gripping
You're
all the
right.
way through and through.
He
So
can find
yeah,
story regardless of the circumstances. Well, yeah, it's really
exactly.
down to
And
him
that's the
being an
true
incredible storyteller.
yes, that's exactly what I was gonna say. That's the true signature of a great storyteller. That's what makes the best filmmakers
Right.
stand apart from the crowd.
Yeah.
And I
'Cause,
think with this
anyone
movie,
can get a crew and a camera and make a movie, but who's
yeah,
gonna watch it unless it's right, the story.
it's
The
yeah, exactly.
fundamentals.
And in a career that's already so much so very decorated, Christopher Nolan, I think this is his
Yeah.
masterpiece. And
Yeah.
hopefully he'll be around long enough to give continue to give us more masterpieces like this and even
Yeah.
build on this. But this is probably the best movie of his career to date,
Yeah. It
and
was pretty
very
fantastic.
much will be deserving of when it. I think it's more of a matter of when, not if, it winning the Best Picture award at the end of the night. So
I wish that they were in different years, Barbie and Oppenheimer, because I wish they could both
right?
win.
Or I wish they. I mean, I don't think they've ever given the award to 2 movies. I don't think you can really do that. I don't even know if it's, like, part of the rules, but yeah, I mean, and then also the team of, like, Emma Thomas, who's, Christopher Nolan, Emma Thomas are, happily married. and so the two of them also produce all their movies. And Charles Rowan, like, an old collaborator of the group, and he was part of the whole Dark Knight trilogy, and he moved across with them with for Oppenheimer over at Universal. And I think it will be fun to see the three of them walk up to the stage and receive their Oscars for Best Picture, and hopefully that won't be the only Oscar that Christopher Nolan will be collecting for the night, and that will hope most likely will not be the only Oscar that Oppenheimer will be collecting on the night. So, I mean, that should do it for now, I guess, because we could keep talking about this. There's so many other categories. Like, I think Spider-Verse is probably gonna win the Best Animated Feature, even though there's a lot of people out there
Mhm.
who are thinking like the Boy and the Heron probably deserves it because it's such a great movie, and it could win it. I
Yeah.
think it was probably between the two of them. Like, the first Spider-Verse movie did win it, and the second one for a lot of people was even better. So it's that, but like, you've got, The Boy and the Heron, and The Boy and the Heron is one of those iconic movies, that for a Miyazaki film, like, I think usually every Miyazaki film at least gets nominated, but I don't know if it's ever really won. And of course, then you have like Elemental,
Mhm.
another Pixar movie, because what would a best animated feature film category be without a Pixar movie there? The
Mhm.
movie studio for which that category was created, so they could like nominate Toy Story in there instead of the best picture, where it probably did and definitely did belong. But anyway,
Yeah.
I digress. I think, there's just so many categories to look forward to every year at the Oscars, and this year,
I know.
I think this year for the first time in a few years feels like, especially because of the whole Barbenheimer phenomena, like a year where you wanna watch the award show and
Yeah.
you're just gonna have a fun time because every category is gonna keep you on the edge of your seat. I'm looking forward to it personally. I don't know about you, but like, I'll be
Me
tuned
too.
in at 8 p.m.
Mhm.
Eastern tomorrow, on
Yeah.
Sunday
Gonna get with
watching the
the
show.
girlies,
Yeah.
have a little
Yep.
celebration.
There we
It'll be
go.
good.
Yep. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so I'm looking forward to it, guys. Let us know what you think about these picks. I like did Bridget and I pick them right? Were we really, far off the mark? What are your picks for best
Probably.
picture, for best, actors, actress, leading role, supporting role?
Yeah,
What
let
are some
us
of the big
know.
snubs? Yeah, surprises, like hot takes. Of course, if you're watching this after the Oscars, like just definitely feel free to slate us for like completely missing the mark, or maybe our
Yeah.
predictions come true, for all we know. Maybe Barbie does win Best Picture. I just think like whether it's Oppenheimer or Barbie, I'd be really happy if either of those movies won. What I won't be
Yeah.
happy is if neither of those movies won, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, guys, let us know in the comments, and then of course like and subscribe. We'll be back here talking about more movies in the coming weeks. Godzilla times Kong, the new Kingdom, that's coming out soon. Of course, Kung Fu Panda 4. If you want to get your fix of Jack Black and you already saw the two reels on Instagram, then go watch the movie. It's still in theaters. And of
Yeah.
course, Dune Part 2. If you watch Dune Part 2 and you want to see a review, or if you're interested and you want to see a review before you go see it, then check out a review on that. Drive Away Dolls. We recently did a review with Angelina. She went to see it and she had a pretty good time, but that's not a movie for everybody. But maybe it is a movie for you. So if you look at the review on our channel, then that might give you some insight into what you can expect. And just rewind back on this review, and you'll find out what Bridget thought about Kung Fu Panda 4. But yeah, we'll watch the Oscars, and then we'll come back at it, and we'll debrief on just what we got right and what we got wrong. And Bridget, as always, it's been great talking to you on the show. We'll be back here
Yeah.
again with DC Daily during the week, and then I'm sure be back with Movie of the Week next week. Until then, guys, go out there, go watch a movie that you like, a movie that you're interested in, then come back and talk to us about it. We'd love to hear from you, and then we'll talk to you about that on the next show. So yeah, have a great week ahead, and looking forward to the
Yeah.
Oscar. That's what it's all about.